weekend all. Ira Epstein with your weekend edition of your financial market wrap-up. And this means we're going to look at the weekly charts for this Friday, the 4th of October, 2024. Well, I'll tell you, I got knocked out of my chair when I saw these numbers. I thought they were misprints, to be honest with you. Non-farm payrolls, they expected 143,000. I saw estimates from 143, 150 from CNBC and Bloomberg, and then you had outliers. 220 was the biggest from one of the banks. 70,000 Citi, I think, was on the downside. There was nobody looking for this kind of number. And it just, I went, whoa, 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 whoa. I did a bit of education on it. I'm going to come to that right as we get down past here. The September unemployment rate it went down to 4.1%. They did revise August. They made a revision in July, too, if you'll recall. So between these revisions, we've probably got another 70,000 that we've thrown onto the lane. When you look at the sector payroll, look at this. She came up 104,000 in the private sector, 105,000, up 7,000 in the government. So this is not coming from the government in any manner. Labor force participation stayed where it was, and earnings are going up. So this is all very, very important. So the first thing I'm asking myself, well, Boeing's been on strike. Why aren't they included? Because this is a September report. And, you know, the reports are that, Boeing by itself is 40,000, but everything affected by it are big numbers, big numbers. Factories that make parts, did they go and furlough their people? What goes on? Now, well, people that go willingly on strike cannot get unemployment claims. I think you realize that. You can't go on strike and say, I'm going to rush to the unemployment line necessarily. Those that get furloughed, that's a whole different world. So there's different ways that this works. More important to me is how does it get counted into the headline for the non-farm payroll? Because the strike occurred on September 12th, paychecks were made in September. They're not counted. They'll be when we get the numbers now, you're going to lose some of those people because they're not employed now. You got to play with this. It's all a game that gets played with. Marco Rubio came out today. I was listening to him, the Senator Rubio. He goes, this is all a lie. There's no way this is real. I don't know what's real and not real. That's not my job. My job is looking at the number when it comes out and falling out of my chair. And I literally could have fallen out of the chair. I couldn't believe it myself. All right, so what's the impact on the market? Well, as you can imagine, up in all the stock indices, the gold and the silver market down, but I think that's temporary. The dollar up, that's probably why the gold market was down there. Foreign currencies got beat up pretty good today, and I was definitely wrong. I thought the dollar was more in a bear camp, and I thought the Swiss franc was more in a bull camp. Long term. Short term, I have traders out, but the longer term trades, and we do that on a weekly basis, they got blown out today. Couldn't stay with that. When you look at the energies, they're all up, and of course, interest rates looked at this number and went, whoa, 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 whoa. Why is the Fed cutting? Well, now you've got to come up with the fact that the revision to that, you're going to see the impact of Hurricane Helene. That's a big number. Now, that whole region makes up about a fifth, the whole region of the U.S. workforce from articles I've been reading, and not everybody's out of work. So it'll be a significant number, but does it weigh anything down? I think it does, especially for the people there. FEMA's running out of money. I don't know if you've been watching. If you haven't, watch your nightly news. You're going to see that they have to go back to Congress for money. And we have more hurricanes brewing out there. This season's not over. In the grain markets, I was applauding finally. I had my clients get out of wheat lower than this high. Forget this high. 2 days ago, it was even higher. And I'm going, boy, did I blow that. Now I feel good about how that's fallen back. And as we look at everything else, again, what's this going to do for real rates? Well, it certainly doesn't keep the Fed on a 50 basis point number at this point. I don't know what the November report will show. And we do get that report right at the time when the Fed's going to meet. So they're going to be able to see that and make a decision. Do they even cut? I mean, if you get another strong report, why are they cutting? That'd be the first thing. But if it gives revisions to this and everything comes down a lot, then they probably keep cutting. But I don't think by 50. I think they'd get very conservative and go maybe 25. Between now and then, we don't know how the world's going to go between Israel and Iran. There's just so many unknowns, but you got to trade what you have at this point in time. So why don't we take a look at where we're at and understand that for the week, you were down 0.25 percentage point. Certainly not a very big drop, basically marking time. By the way, I think I said for the week. For the month so far, I said that wrong. For the month, you're down 0.25 point. For the week, you're higher by 0.15. Very impressive. You can see how the market's up here at all-time highs for all purposes. The pattern of the chart is you have a higher high, a lower low. The market came down again, and on a weekly basis, as you can see right here, held 4 weeks ago and has popped and held that. And the resistance, why do you think you're stopping right here? That's where your upper Bollinger Band is, and that's always very important. And do we have an embedded reading? No. So you have a market that's overbought, back into the top of a Bollinger Band. You have a jobs report that between Hurricane Helene, Boeing, we could see numbers retrace a bit on the next report. That's the way I'm going to leave that. We have a series of CPI, PPI coming up right in front of us shortly now. When we go to the Dow, it's similar. Are we embedded? Well, in order to embed, you have to have 3 weeks in a row where the numbers are over 80. You certainly had that this week. Last week, you had the numbers over 80. And the week before, right here, you did too. So you're fully embedded, which tells me on the pullbacks in the market, you're still going to get buying. So again, I don't see anything to stop this market through year end of getting terribly bad information. If this is what's bad, watch out. We have the election coming up. You know that. That's going to be what, November 5th? We'll see. Did this type of event today help Ms. Harris? Well, it certainly didn't hurt her. I mean, she's able to say, you know, the policy with President Biden has worked, and workers under his tenure have just keep adding jobs. You can't get away from that if you're trying to, and if you're for him, you're applauding it. Higher lows, higher highs. You're getting a little bit overbought here. And in the Russell, on a weekly chart, you're up, and you're holding key areas on the daily chart. So that takes us to the 5-year note, and you just pulled the plug on the market. Now, you had this, and I wanted to leave that in there for us. But now you got lower highs, lower lows, and you have an outside day down. Outside week down. Outside weeks are very important, as are my favorite outside days. If you end up taking out this week's high, this coming week or the week after, it's very problematic for the market. It probably means you're going on up to new highs in the marketplace. So that's one of the things you look for. On the way down, you've just lost the bullish embedded reading. So the odds favor that before this current high, these right here, let's go with that, is hit, market will get to wherever that 18-week average is. In the 10-year, it is the same pattern. Here I've given you the arrows. I wanted to just see how they worked out. Lower highs, lower lows. I'm looking for the market to come in here. But unlike the 5-year, the 10-year didn't lose its embedded reading. It still has it. It could lose it this coming week, but it hasn't lost it yet. Look where the dollar held. I mean, when I look back at this, that's an important number, the 135 area. Now, on my daily work, I looked at this and I said, nah, you got to come out of your bearish positions because that was hit. I want to come back and show you something. This is how you had looked coming in, and that's what I told them. On the weekly, you had such an embedded reading, I didn't think it was going to be lost. I expected an up and then to come up and try to fail. Now, by the end of the day, which is the highs of the week, you had to come out, you got a reading of 21.26, the way that I teach that. And in the euro, you came down, you're challenging right now your Bollinger Band. You never did embed there. Not Bollinger Band, the 18-week average. And what has happened? So often we talk about, and it's hard for people to get it, the first challenge of a 200-day average or 200-week, either one. This is a weekly chart, so it'll be this one on the weekly. It generally gets tested. So when we went up and came down, I kept saying, well, is that the test? Well, now here's how I'm going to be able to read the chart. Now I can step back and say, you've made the lower low. The next time you get over it and stay with it and go up, that might be the one that holds. But right here, no. Now you've got a market that's got nothing going for it. In the Canadian dollar, a lot of resistance on the first run to the 100-week average in the upper Bollinger Band in an overbought market. The trend is up, but you're so overbought you can afford to pull back in this market. In the Japanese yen, it certainly sounds like there's a lot of backtracking via the new Prime Minister Ishida and Governor Ueda that maybe they want to make certain things go on. Remember, it's a new regime in government, and this has been weighing on the market. You're probably going to have to go back and restructure now against the 18-day average. But the dollar wins by default. Have you seen anything that is up against dollar? Not really. Bitcoin is stuck on a weekly chart. It just stuck and glued to this 18-week average of closes. On the energies, well, it's not that demand is there right now. It could come. I happen to believe in what China is doing. So I do believe that a bottom is going to form in demand. And I think the worst of the demand not being there is behind the market now. And certainly seeing U.S. workers like this translates to inflation and demand. The more people that work, the more things they buy, the more money's chasing supply. It's really that simple. And you can look at where this market is fighting right now. Look at this monster move off of what went on. This is the missile strike. And notice where the market stopped, right? How often do you hear me tell you? Right on that 18-week average, that line in the sand. Markets like to go there to figure out what next. By the way, today in the news headlines, if you're reading them, now the Biden administration is saying they don't want Israel to attack oil infrastructure. Okay, so don't hit them with nuclear. Don't hit them in the oil. I read it again, and I'm cracking up. So I think what Israel should do is invite the Khomeini over for dinner. And they can talk things out, just as though it never happened. And maybe that's what's going to be. I don't know. But Israel needs the support of its allies. That doesn't mean they will not go on their own. There's no way that I know. Higher lows, higher highs, the resistance, the same as the other market. And look at gasoline. That came off the low. So you had 2 weeks under the Bollinger